Hello and welcome to the Miko Bits Show, and I'm your host, Miko Bits. Today I'm going to be talking with my friend Kurt, who is running a thing called Nifty Wizards, and it's a pretty amazing thing. It's a blockchain NFT entertainment game, and it's mostly integrated through Telegram. So it's very novel, and I think it's definitely worth a look. So what I'd love to do is bring it on. So hey, Kurt, how are you?
Hey, thanks for thinking of me, Miko. And I think the last time that we talked on video, I was recording you. I was interviewing you, right?
How
So,
fun! It's kind of become the new world, right? Instead of actually hanging out in real life, we're just doing this over Zoom. But
yeah.
I'm excited to kind of get a little bit into this. But I guess the first place I want to start is, how did this project get started? I mean, it's nifty wizards.
So it's a long story, so I'll try to keep it short. But being in crypto for as long as I have now, I started getting kind of obsessed with this idea of like cryptocurrencies being sort of like a form of expression and
Yeah,
like role playing.
yeah,
And I feel like they always are. Like Doge is a role playing cryptocurrency, I think. And so we built one called Morty's, which was on EOS, and we chose EOS because it has these crazy transactions where you can just blast the blockchain. And we built Morty's based on Rick and Morty, and then that kind of made me realize, like, wow, it'd be really neat if we had NFTs so that people can play out these roles based on ownership. So if I own a Krombopolis Michael, who's a hitman in Rick and Morty, then I should be able to play out those roles based on my ownership. And we love crypto and we love our ownership. So, it just seemed to be a really good match. And then because there was some copyright issues with that and we don't want to steal anybody's copyrights, obviously I just built my own brand that can do it ourselves. And that's how Nifty Wizards came about. And I always had this kind of dream that like I always wanted to see a movie that's like Harry Potter, but maybe more like for adults. Like not like that far on the adult side, but maybe like imagine Game of Thrones level wizards, right? Like that seemed more appealing to me. So we ended up with building a set of NFTs that were based on like NFT as a paywall kind of for Telegram.
yeah.
And I decided to use Telegram because that's where everybody's at and they're talking. So I thought, let's bring the game and bring crypto to where the people are, right? So
That's great. I mean, it's such an interesting thing that you've developed in the sense that you're kind of solving multiple problems and you're solving user interface problems, you're solving communication problems, you're solving blockchain problems. So, it's really exciting. I mean, I remember Morty's when you kind of launched that. That was kind of a lot of fun. It was sort of in the kind of meme coin category, and obviously you're right, like developing your own intellectual property, it's pretty interesting. I had a chat with the crypto kitty guys, like Roham and Mick and those guys, and we were talking about they have a thing called Cheese Wizards, right? And Cheese Wizards was their own IP after doing, obviously Crypto Kitties is their own IP, right? But then they also did like NBA, so they're doing a basketball thing, So they're starting to mix kind of their own intellectual property with kind of licensed intellectual property. But like, it's fascinating, and I like it's great. Like, you're wearing an LA hat, like you live down in Tinseltown, not in Hollywood per se, but you live down in Southern California, and I think you have a culture, a creativity, and a mindset around entertainment, right? So I think
yeah,
the way you pitch that whole thing to me, right, is it just seems very like entertainment, right? You're absolutely
yeah.
thinking about this from an entertainment perspective.
It is, and there's so many problems that I think that it solves. It's almost like just a rabbit hole to go down. Like, what did we have during the 2017 kind of boom was we had the idea of some platform that didn't exist yet and Telegram communities that were providing value and building communities right in Telegram. And so one of the things that has come out of Nifty Wizards, and it just exceeded over 1 million transactions now, is the Dust cryptocurrency that I first thought would be for our game, but now I realize it can be for the entire gaming ecosystem. And some games are significantly integrating it now. Like Alien Worlds just agreed to allow mining of dust on one of their 6 planets. And so we have a group of people are doing this, and this isn't really a small thing. Like some of these sets are making hundreds of thousands of dollars selling their NFTs on Wax. And so what Dust does is it allows someone to come into a Telegram, get cryptocurrency, and immediately turn that cryptocurrency around without even playing around with the wallet. And this is so if you think about the problem, it's like, what if a million users want to come into Wax tomorrow and buy stuff with Wax? They might be little kids or something. Like, are they going to go to an exchange and buy the Wax? Like, I don't think so. And so that's one of the problems I wanted to solve, is I want people to play immediately. And I think that this kind of solves that problem. And yeah, it is entertainment. I've been really inspired by the TSR business that has, I think they exceeded about 30 million players. And I wasn't a Dungeons and Dragons guy, but what I realized was I'm essentially building Dungeons and Dragons. That's why we call it the Las Vegas of Dungeons and Dragons, because we've taken some concepts from Dungeons and Dragons in a way and brought them to a 24/7 environment where all of the assets and quote unquote cards are crypto assets. And so that's what I'm really going after. It's not really for like core crypto people. You don't really have to play with the wallet very much. It's more for people who like to do role playing.
Wow, that's so interesting. Role playing, it's so amazing, right? What's happening to kind of entertainment and gaming and video gaming. I mean, for me, like one of the things that was such an interesting thing growing up in the early video game industry is kind of watching the world go. Like my first video gaming experience, obviously it was kind of Pong, but like after that, like I had my own like Atari 400 computer, with like 16K of RAM. It was like 8-bit processor, and so it had also 8-bit graphics, right? And so when you look at the resolutions and you look at the kind of art that comes out, like it's pixel art, right? And so it's to me, it's so interesting how like back in those days, the only aspiration was to get to kind of almost like 3-dimensional photoreal, like, and it was just this blistering pursuit, and then at some point it was just like oil painters trying to create photorealistic oil paintings, and after photography showed up, people were just like, okay, that's kind of like, why are we doing this anymore? Like, let's just enjoy ourselves, right? So like it feels like the art styles have really like become just much more free. There's no longer the slavish obsession with like photorealism, or it's much more in kind of about enjoyability. So how do you think about that?
Yeah, for sure. 8-bit art has been a very big inspiration for this project. And so we now have about 40 different NFTs that are really kind of based on pixel art. And I've learned a lot about pixel art. I've always loved it. And, and I think that it's just so cool. And how I like to think about products, I always want to reduce complexity. And so we've been able to leverage an existing art form, which is 8-bit and pixel art, and it's reduced a lot of the complexity. So, it only takes me about a day or so to come up with 2 or 3 new concepts, and then they sell out. Like weed castles, for example, we moved about 15 of them. They're just like $100 a piece, and then people just buy them immediately. They don't stay in the market for more than like 5 minutes generally. And we keep them kind of rare, and people really enjoy them because they can take, like, one of the core concepts here actually is that that's why there's 8-bit art, is that it's not about the art. Even though I personally love it, like someone might look at it and be like, what the fuck is this? This looks like shit. Like this just looks like, and I know that. It's not like, I think that people think that maybe I don't know that. Like I almost, like, we even have poop emojis that are just really pixelated.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that because to me, like, it's an expression of what the NFT can do for you, right? And so when you hold these castles, they produce these other NFTs, and that you're only the person that can have that kind of castle. And now you're a role player as a wizard in the game. You own an asset that produces their assets. Now other players need to go for you for those assets. So it's like, it deepens the role playing, and it's a little bit different from, I bought this shiny thing that may have like some animation, but it doesn't really do shit. Like, that's what's exciting about NFTs. When people like Wim Quigley say these things are like supercomputers, I actually really believe that. At first I was like, oh, maybe, but now I kind of really do believe that they they have all these rights and ways to express themselves. Like ours are NFT as like a paywall in a sense, because you can't get into certain rooms if you don't have them. So it's a ticket to a
Oh.
party. It has functions like if you have a sword, you can literally attack somebody in a chat room and stab them with their sword, and it will lower the other person's power. Like they have
Wow.
functions, they have
Wow.
expressions. Yeah,
Wow. I love the idea of it being kind of access and that there's kind of ticketing, kind of that vibe. Like, that's so interesting, because um in a way, like it's a paradigm for kind of understanding the world, right? In the sense that, like, part of the excitement about playing the game of the world is getting access, right? Is
yeah,
basically just getting experiences and going to places and meeting people, and so the exclusivity of these environments and the
yeah,
role play becomes fascinating. I'd love
yeah,
to kind of see some of
yeah,
this in
for sure.
action, like.
Yeah. Let's I'll share my screen here and kind of give you guys a little spin. There's a lot to digest. I think there's about 50 rooms now.
Oh, that's
And
amazing.
so you can kind of see, like, this is how you drive yourself insane if you want to use Telegram in the way that I do. It's probably not good. But let's talk about like battling, okay?
Yeah.
So here are some people, they're all fighting each other with NFTs. Like right
Wow.
now, actually, Amanda and Ken are battling each other, which is great. And so what I can do is I could like slap Ken, for example, right? So I have, and this is an NFT. This is a fist NFT that's on the market, and I cannot slap somebody if this is not in my wallet. So I'm gonna slap Ken, and then these guys are gonna probably fuck me up.
That's
Oh, it
hilarious.
says that I'm dead, and now if I have heart NFT, I can revive myself like this.
That's hilarious. So
So I revive myself. Now I can slap his ass.
that is really funny.
Yeah. And I can ping myself. And this is the project I was telling you about, Miko, that just got funding, which is I can I can see all of my NFTs and show them off to the world, basically. I think I can't do it in this room, so I might need to go into another one here really quick. So if I go into the lobby, for example, this shows like how our Telegram is basically connected to the blockchain.
Yeah.
So if I look at my inventory here, it'll show me all of my items. And so this is the collective bot. And what it is, it's really just kind of like a digital pog case that it's like, hey guys, I'm over here in the social place. I'm going to show off all these things that I own. And you can see all of my NFTs right here, and other people see it. They can go hop into the market, and then they can go and buy the stuff. So it's kind of a social kind of proof. And you can see I've got all kinds of stuff in my wallet here, and people can trade, and I can sell and buy. Um, and so that's battling. And another interesting room is probably dice. So if you have a dice NFT, it allows you to roll dice, and it's not gambling actually, it's just rewards based. And what they're doing is mining cryptocurrency. So if I want to roll the dice, I just hit this roll command, and then it wins some cryptocurrency. And this goes directly in my wallet from here. And so it's one of the core principles that I wanted to do here is like, you just notice I never had to touch a wallet in any of the things I just showed you.
Yeah.
And that's the way we want it. We want people to not use wallets, because what I want to do is get to a level of kind of stability in the game where we can introduce it to Dungeons and Dragons and all these guys that remember text-based games, and people laying on their couch that don't want to be playing around with the wallet and they just want to use Telegram. That's kind of the idea.
That's exciting. Like, one thing that I kind of got a laugh out of is the Discord RPG bot. So, like, it
Uh,
kind of has a vibe of that where you're sort of like, just text adventuring, but it has a much more kind of multiplayer vibe.
yeah. Well, you have to kind of talk with other people, and that was an important thing to me, because I feel like under the hood, like when you really lift the kimono, there's relationships under here. There's friends. There's people that are doing business together now. Like we have a really elite group in here. These guys might be kind of unhappy that I'm doxing them a little bit, but but this is a room where there's only 12 staff holders, and I think one of these staffs actually sold for $1,000. But the idea is that These are the elite guys that are like staffs that hold staff NFTs in their wallet. They have to be voted in. So another little feature is that we have a functional DAC. All of these rooms vote with Telegram polls based on their ownership, and these things get implemented. So I'll show you an example. The Weed Castle farmers, they just voted on an important initiative to decide who can create weed in the game. And so,
Wow.
as you can see, these guys who own the Castle NFTs, they have right to vote. And these guys have voted should the Weed Castle owners only be the only ones that can generate weed in the game. And their answer is yes. So that's what we're going to do. And so we'll strip rights from other people that are doing it. But what we do is we kind of gameplay and strategize. Like we might bribe the other guys who have the forge rights to give them a castle so that they keep quiet about the move we're making. It's all like a strategy game.
That's really kind of amazing.
And here's Dust. So Dust is one that came out of the cryptocurrency and that we built, but now we opened it to all games, which is if I just write a little message like this mines cryptocurrencies. So if we go to the Wax blockchain and I go to the account that sends out this cryptocurrency, you can see right here on the blockchain that, and this thing is just getting slammed because now there's 50 mines that are, I think there's over 50, I think it's almost 100 mines now. You see that these operator rewards get distributed, and just in the last, seconds, there's, dozens of transactions. I can't even find my transactions. This thing's getting slammed, but I'll show you all of the groups that are currently mining Dust, and these are all of them here. And these guys are just going crazy mining Dust. Every message that they send is like this is a new one that we just added. And a lot of these are NFT sets. We have pretty much any game on Wax that's an NFT set is mining this stuff. So these guys are mining too. This is another great sticker set. Hot cakes on Wax. We have international groups that are task earning. We have, Alien Worlds, which is, I'm really excited about Alien Worlds doing this because they have a full DAC, a fully decentralized mining game where you're an alien and you mine this trillium. And there's just so much creativity going on. You have GPK, the garbage pail communities that are, we have Spanish groups, we have upland groups, we have, like, the interesting thing, Miko, about blockchain games, and I think it's just so interesting, is that these games can bridge to each other so easily in a way that other games cannot. Like, a huge example is this set right here that I think is really great. It's called Crypto Monkeys. What they did was they targeted our users from the blockchain that only have this special rune. And they said, look, we want to drop this special card only to people who have this special birth rune. And so I can forge one to somebody actually. Right from Telegram, I can send and forge, which is generating an NFT on the blockchain, to somebody else. And that is just sent to them. It was generated, created a full NFT, and sent it to this person. And
Wow.
I never had to touch a wallet. So anything else you want to see in the wizard side, Miko? Anything?
That's amazing. And it's so interesting to see. It feels like kind of the edge of something really new that's sort of peeking through.
It is, and you know what? I think that you would think this is super interesting, Go, is that it's actually starting to happen on ETH. Like if you look at Collabland, I think that Andrew, who I'm speaking with next week, but he's a really great guy. But on Ethereum, you have things like DAOFi. And what they're essentially doing is really the same thing that I started doing. It's monetizing and integrating crypto into Telegram and building paywalls. And it was at 500 users like 2 months ago, and now it's at like 15,000 users that are actually interacting with cryptocurrencies inside of Telegram. It's kind of what Ton wanted to do in a way, but they kind of gave up. But now people like me and the guys on ETH are building paywalls and building groups around the currencies and integrating them in. It's important to me to bring it to where people are. And that's why this has been pretty exciting here.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I guess I'd love to kind of try to understand the different mindsets, right? I mean, is like how economic is this activity, or is it not really?
Economic is in how much money people are spending and how much are making.
Yeah, yeah.
So my set is about at like 10 grand USD, I would say, with just selling stickers. And I would say a more popular set, like some of the other sets that I work on, it wouldn't be uncommon for them to pull in about 40 or 50 grand in one day in sales. And generally those sales span for a few days. And then they kind of, they wait until the next set. Like things like EPK, they sell hundreds of thousands of dollars just over in
How do
an
you define like a set?
So I can show you my collection. So here's my collection right here.
Yeah.
And if we look at, like my sales, you can see that right here, just in this set alone, it's about 6 grand USD. It fluctuates because it's crypto. And here are some sets here. Like here's Alien Worlds, for example. You know what? They don't actually show up. But if I do my own set, you can kind of see like we have dice. We have all these different NFTs, and really a set is really a collection. And this is the Nifty Wizards collection. And you can see their schemas and all this stuff, but one of the big schemas is items. And so now you can see all the different items that I have inside of my set. Generally, like Nifty Wizards is the name of my set because of all the items for that game. But mine is kind of a game. These other ones are more cosmetic. So it might be that they have one set for, Garbage Pail Kids that might be Joe Exotic theme. And then there's another set that might be Star Wars or something like that.
Wow. That's so cool.
Yeah, I think so.
And how do you create?
I'll show you. So if you click Nifty Creator here, I can go into here to my collection, and I will go into an existing kind of template. And then I might want to create a new asset or create a new template. So I'll create this template. And templates are basically like, look, this is the thing that I want to constantly mint over time. So let's say weed castles. I might not want to mint all of them right off the bat. So if I kind of go in here and I wanted to create, let's say I create a baby wizard, because this one I think is just going to sell crazy. And so baby wizards are kind of like batteries for my game. Like the more baby wizards that you stack, the more productive your farms and shit are. So we put all the loot on the baby.
That's cool. Make the babies work. Oh,
Yeah.
so cute.
And so this is a baby. This is some pixel art. You can already see that I have an IPFS hash here. And this is why I think actually IPFS is going to go berserk, because all these assets that people are going to create, they need these hashes, right? So we got that. And this is going to be a baby. I'm going to call it a baby wizard. The rarity is going to be base. And you can see that I can add all these different things here. Like I could actually just be like, I want to add more metadata, but generally this is how these templates work because they're item templates. And then what I do is I click to create a template that will open up a wallet. And then I authorize that. You can see on the blockchain, I'm creating a template that will be leveraged later. I authorize that. This is the tricky part I was telling you about. I hope I'm just not exposing anything.
Yeah, I'm sure it's fun.
So I created a template, and boom, now like babies exist on the blockchain, right?
Hey, so, you made baby with a blockchain.
I made a baby. And then what I'll do is I want to mint a new asset. And then I can now leverage this template, this baby wizard template. It will fill the details. I can figure out which wallet that I want it to go to. And then I can say how many I want to create the asset. And then what I want to do is I want to choose the right account, because you want to do it in a secure way. So I'm going to use my active account. I'm going to authorize that. Now we have babies on blockchain, and they have been minted individually.
Whoa.
Here they are. And now
you got us babies.
So, I could put one on sale. So let's say I want to I'll probably sell this one for like, let's say 500 wax. And let's see if we can just do like live sale. Actually, I think
You're selling a baby.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's legal to sell babies.
This is like some QAnon type shit here.
I want to figure out what mint this is, because people will snatch up the mints if they're low mints. And I'm worried about that. I like to keep the low mints. But basically now I have a sales page, so I can be like, hey guys, like,
check out my babies.
Here's my baby, right? Does anybody want to buy my baby, basically? And this thing will just get snatched up in a second, like it doesn't take long. But the babies are going to be really prominent. So this one might be a little expensive. I think it's like
$17, something like that.
Oh shit! Actually, this is a mint one. I am going to take this bad boy off of sale. But that's kind of the gist of it. So I hope that was kind of helpful.
I like that. That's super helpful, and it's kind of a whirlwind tour through this kind of like crazy new universe.
Yeah. I'll sell this first baby for, let's say 10,000 bucks, which is like $400.
Because it took you so long to make.
Yeah, I need to be paid for my labor, essentially, right? So.
Well, there's 9 more where that came from.
Yeah, and it's all on the blockchain too. This is great. Like, I place them on sale on the blockchain. I see who bought them on the blockchain. I get notified. Wax has done something that's really great. I think that the only downside really is that, the Wax ecosystem isn't as large as the Ethereum ecosystem. So I'm actually going to bring this set probably to ETH pretty soon. I've been kind of working on that a little bit, just because I believe that there's a lot more money there and there's a lot more opportunity. But Wax is convenient because I can trade these things around and mint them on the fly, because I don't have to pay all these gas costs,
So how do you add kind of functionality to these NFTs? I mean, I think one of them is kind of this ticketing system, which I think is sort of a typical blockchain integrated kind of a chatbot. But like, what other kind of functionality? You were talking about stabbing people and things. Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so there's some metadata that some people might argue you should keep the metadata in the assets, but I don't like keeping them in the assets on the blockchain, because if the fees start to get high, now it kind of doesn't make sense. Like, in my opinion, you buy a sword and then you shouldn't have to interact with the blockchain. So like, what I do is I have kind of like a cache layer that says, this person has this level of health left. And then I don't have to interact with the wallet in order to use my NFT, because all I do is I join their Telegram usernames to what assets they have on the blockchain. And so I know what they have. So they can't use a sword and stab somebody if they don't have it in their wallet. If they went and sold it, my bots will pick it up and remove their ability to do it. And so it's like a cached layer where I kind of keep track of some things in a centralized way. And we have I think it's about 30 bots now. They're really NPCs in the game. And each NFT actually has its own bot that's responsible for fulfilling the functions of the NFT. And I want them to be kind of like ever growing. So it might be the sword has 5 attacks, but it could also be that you want to enchant the sword or something, right? So
that's interesting. And so is that scripting open? Like, if someone creates items, can they like also? I mean, I guess how they could create a room, or they create a bot, right? So it's really a process of creating a bot. Do you have like a bot library for consulting the blockchain, or how does this get extensible?
Yeah, so it's a really good question, and it's, I could open source it if I really wanted to, but I feel like there's a really big business opportunity, and we frankly have a big advantage over these other games because, I have like 30,000 lines of code that do a lot of this stuff very conveniently, and there's a lot of things that you want to do. Like, you want to cache things and you want to have your own metadata. You want to understand how to interact with Telegram in a specific way. But the idea is that the way that we can make it extensible is to kind of white label it. Like our collection bots, for example, that are a really convenient way to show off what you have. Like, there's no reason why these shouldn't grow to companies like Tops that I'm talking to, other brands, like even Ethereum. If a Star Wars set comes out, what's to stop me from having other players show their Star Wars collections off? There's nothing. And I could brand. I might not be able to brand it legally, but I can have my collection bot show these sets. And then if somebody like Star Wars said, "Wow, I really like the way that these players can show off their items to each other," it's kind of like a digital pog case, like, "Hey, look what I got," right? And I have this theory that the collectibles and anything in life, actually, whether it's a Lambo or whatever, it's like if you can't show it off, it's like not worth having. And so I think that that's kind of like a crucial part of digital collectibles that we haven't really explored. It's like, how do you show these things off? Because I know how to show off my Gucci purse, I know how to show off my Nikes, but how do you show off a digital collectible? It's kind of like a problem that hasn't fully been solved yet. And so I think that this is one of the potential solutions.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. I mean, one of the killer applications in this kind of social media world is kind of vanity, right? And someone actually, I think it was Clayton from Uma in the DeFi Nation chat room in the Facebook group was talking about what people think when they see someone driving around in a Lambo, right? And it's super fascinating. It's super fast. It's not what you think. So what I thought was that the person thinks that guy is pretty cool, right?
Well, I think that there's one guy that thinks like, "Wow, that's cool," and like there's this philosopher that says that you only know what you want based on what somebody else has, right?
Yeah.
And I think that you and I are not very materialistic people. So
I don't care about
but
that.
Like when we see this guy, we might be like, "This guy's a fucking douchebag."
Yeah, totally. But that's not where I was going with this. So the thing that it turns out, which is really interesting, is that it turns out that most people actually think this. They think, if I owned that Lambo, then I would look pretty cool. Right, which is super funny, right? So they don't think so. It's so funny because they don't afford the coolness to the person who actually has the Lambo. So they're not like, that person's cool, right? But the thing that's so amazing is the brain is able to take this leap that's provably false. And what I mean by it's provably false is, if I were that guy, then other people would think that I was cool. Except for that you don't think that guy's cool. So, like, you know what I mean? It's kind of hilarious. It's hilarious. Like, So the reality is that nobody's cool, right? Nobody thinks any of those people are cool, and the people who are in them are kind of in a pretend. Like, they're kind of in this mood of like, well, I finally am the guy driving this thing, therefore I must be cool. None of the other guys were cool, by the way. No one else that I've ever seen in my life drive a Lambo was cool, but now I'm cool because I'm driving the Lambo. ?
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like our psychology is very simple in some ways. Like, I do kind of have this belief that like your kind of deeper response to some of these things, it might be that everybody sees a Lambo and there's part of their mind that says like, "Wow, what an amazing piece of machinery. What an amazing status symbol that really kind of, it connotes some kind of richness to you or something."
There's certainly economic power there.
Yeah, and so there's something that it's like, whether you like it or not, or whether your final thought as it goes into your prefrontal cortex is that guy's a douchebag, somewhere along the line you really were impressed by it or something. In your deep animal mind, it's like, you see a steak and maybe you're a vegetarian, like maybe when you first see the steak, it's like, "Wow, I'm hungry," or you smell it or something. Like, there's just like this animal side to it. And I think that we're aware of that, and we don't want to trick people, but I think that there's a certain kind of value in showing these things off in a way that's tasteful and it's done well. And I see people doing it. Like, I see people, they'll be in a conversation and it might be like, "Well, here's my stack, so check out." And we're not used to doing that in crypto, because a lot of us crypto dudes aren't even comfortable with people knowing if we have crypto or not. A lot of them are like anonymous bros, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, these are fucking stickers. Who cares? Like, I can be like, "Hey bro, here are my stickers that I have." Like, you can actually show it. So it's a little different from crypto because you really do want to show it off. It's like, hey, I'm a wizard. Even though it sounds ridiculous, it's like, I'm a wizard. Here's my power. Here's my loot.
But
Like,
that's fascinating, right? Because I think the thing that it kind of relates to is kind of character customization, right? And it turns out that that's a very sticky and enduring part of a lot of kind of multiplayer gaming, right? Which is that the more you invest in customizing your character with equipment and skins and everything else, right? Really, the more you appear a certain way, right? Like you and the goal of appearing a certain way is, of course, to appear. To that other people would see you that way.
yeah, and this goes back to Ultima, right? Like, and a lot of the inspiration that I've drawn for this, and it's like really just fun for me. Like, that I've worked on a lot of very high stress, big crypto projects, and
Sure.
like it can be stressful sometimes. And this to me is just what I do because it actually brings me a lot of joy. And I really love looking at these deep Easter eggs. Like the guy who created Ultima, which was the first,
Yeah, Richard Garriott, Lord British.
what's that?
Richard Garriott, Lord
Yeah,
British. Yeah.
and he also invented, he's the one who created the term for avatar, as everybody knows. And that
Yeah.
was the birth of this kind of customization into like text and computer-based games. And a lot of this stuff is a throwback to that stuff. Like I am very directly bringing in things from my favorite series. Like we have Essence as an NFT. Guess where Essence is big? In the Dark Crystal. And it's like this power that the Skeksis can like drink. It's like every little piece of this game is actually a throwback to shit that I like. So
That's great.
like Highlander, like, what I mean? Just
Yeah, yeah.
random sci-fi shit like that.
That's fantastic. And I think it's emblematic of kind of this postmodern, subsystem, right? Which is that we're all kind of into this referential, network. We're all into kind of generating meaning on top of all the historical things that have come before us, right? So, I like it. It's a fascinating corner of the universe, and it's really fun to get a glimpse into it.
Yep, yep. And so another little piece that I kind of wanted to share with you too is that, when we look back to 2017 it's just so clear in my mind, all the things that were happening. To me, it was kind of a clue, even though it kind of fizzled out like the bull run then. But it's that people want to communicate. There's 400 million active users in Telegram. Okay, like it's a really big number, and these guys are about to dig into Facebook and all these other businesses, and the quick chat stuff isn't going away. And so I just started thinking like, how do we bring crypto there? And so like this dust mining and chat mining that is really taking off like crazy, it's insane, was really just like, how do you bring crypto to what all those people were doing in 2017? They're whipping up Telegram groups, they're chatting like crazy, all the moon boys. Like, why shouldn't they be mining the currency for helping build all this hype? And that's what the dust mining is really about. And we pretty much solved that problem. And it's not something you can do on ETH either. And so ETH has paywalls, but what we have is mining. It's a little bit different. And you mine from Africa with the phone that maybe you even got for free. And that is something that you just can't do with other currencies. And so I think it's going to become a standard. It's just right now it's kind of a niche thing to do.
Yeah, I'm gonna have Gabby from YGG on the show coming up soon, and he actually I don't know if you know Gabby, but he has this really cool guild of NFT people who mostly play Axie Infinity, but
Yeah.
it's actually the way that this works that's kind of mind blowing is that the guild kind of owns Axies, which are the characters in the game. And what happens is they basically rent them out to people who are in the Philippines who have kind of an internet and they have a PC, but they don't really know that much about crypto or Ethereum or NFTs or anything else, and they just train them to play this game, right? And it turns out that they can generate enough of these simple love potions or SLPs that they could basically crank out like a couple $100 a week just sitting at home playing these games on their computer. And in a way, it's a play to earn concept. And the thing that's so funny is that when you talk about earlier, you were talking about assets, right? In-game assets, right? So these are yield generating assets, right? But here's the problem. The problem is the assets don't actually generate yield unless somebody's using the asset to do something, right? Which in the case of Axie is they're using the assets to win competitions in games, right? And so what happens is it turns out that the attention economics is such that, people in the Philippines can kind of use their attention to generate what turns out to be, with the cost of living adjustment, turns out to be a pretty reasonably good living, especially in COVID when, they might not be able to go to their regular workplace, so maybe they're just hanging at home and they're just playing Axie and they're like generating, income, right? And the thing that's fascinating about this guild concept is that, they kind of pay tributes back to the guild because the guild is the owner of the equipment, right? So it's, in a way, it's kind of like they're just renting out these characters that you can play with for a while and earn some money.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things, because I've been involved in that business for a while, it's like, I think they call it gold mining, because it existed for a long time. And it's incredible actually how much that is related to the birth of crypto, because if you go back to Gox, right?
Sure.
Why were a lot of the guys that were early crypto pioneers, guys that you and I both know,
sure,
what were they doing? They were selling this kind of shit in the beginning. So it's coming around full circle, almost back to that. And to me, they just mix so well. We have players in our game that have been able to, one guy paid his cell phone bill. He's in Africa. He's in Ghana.
That's
there are
great.
People that, and we do have Axie players. That's how I learned about Axie, is that we have players from that game in our game that are telling about it. So
yeah, which is cool, right? And I think the thing that you were talking about these kind of internetworks of gaming, the thing that gets fascinating is that, once you have a blockchain system of record, right, then you have ownership of an asset, right? But the thing that's so interesting is that it's just an indelible record to the universe that you have a unique asset, right? But in terms of different game worlds, there's nothing preventing someone from inventing a new world where the asset does some completely different thing, so people can build any kind of experiences referencing the same NFTs if they choose to, and in a way that might be a great, almost like an airdrop incentive, in the sense of, if you're like, oh, I'm going to make it, it's just a bit like you were talking about, where someone started playing with I forgot what it was, runes or staves, or they just started extending the functionality of that in a different environment, being like, well, it's in a way, it's also vampiric, right? Because it's basically like, I'm inviting you to use the thing that you already own, in my experience, and it's kind of like,
I'm telling you, Miko, this is a fucking rabbit hole that is deep. It is so deep. You could last night at 3 a.m. I'm up with guys talking about alien worlds, and it's like, so I have this thing that you just mentioned is so much bigger than I think that anybody actually understands. You could basically take over a game from the outside legally by doing something like this. We had this idea of wizard man caves, right? And so the wizard man cave is where you display all of your other assets, because we have cogs and we have garbage pail kids. And so we thought, and that's kind of what I think Decentraland and even Upland does, and a lot of these kind of VR experiences, that they build galleries. But what do galleries hold?
Sandbox is going to do that too.
Yeah. So it's but it goes so much deeper too, because it could be that, I bring in a weapon from another thing. A wizard can yield that weapon in my game. There's nothing that could stop me from doing it. I mean, maybe if I advertise it or I tried to sell it in some way, but I think that this is going to be really deep. And then, so here's another concept we have. It's bridging in narrative. I was thinking, well, Alien Worlds has 6 planets, and then I started researching wizards and aliens, and I figured out, well, wizards and aliens kind of do mix. It's aliens existed because we want to be true to medieval times, right? We want it to be true to lore. And it's if aliens exist, they existed during medieval times too. So we thought, what if the wizards kind of had a power where they could open a portal into these sort of like alien worlds, right? And so now only elite wizards who have a certain level of magic could get these perks from this other world. And now the games are bound together in a way that you can't bind two MMORPGs really. Like you can't combine Fortnite with Apex Legends. They're these kind of closed silos.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what we're seeing is that blockchain games, it's almost scary how you can connect. Like my game could connect with 6 other games in a
Yeah.
meaningful way.
For sure.
You
For
know?
sure. And I think that really becomes part of kind of almost an open source content paradigm. It becomes a platform, right? And that
Yeah.
the base platform, the thing that's funny about base platform is the base platform is really like true ownership, just like anything else, and in a way what happens is that the games are no longer rent seeking intermediaries, but that the games are actually just services that increase the entertainment value of NFTs that you may already own, or that you may be able to collect more, or whatever. But the point
Yeah.
being is that it's a kind of a set of interactive environments that you can kind of create around this base concept of true ownership.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just, I don't know. I get so excited about it that sometimes it's kind of hard to think like straight up about it. But I think that there's kind of the elephant in the room is really like a lot of this stuff actually isn't as possible on Ethereum, and I think that it will be. Because I'm really starting to believe, and maybe it's just kind of superstitious of me, maybe, but I believe that Ethereum is going to solve a lot of their like L2 issues
Oh yeah.
because there's so much money over there
Yeah,
now.
very confident.
I feel like it's so like before I would have said Ethereum devs are clowns, and well, I would have said all kinds of bad stuff, and I did. But like I'm also willing to change my opinion, and even though I'm really excited about Wax and EOS, and that I am, it allows me to prove the concepts more easily, and I think there is value there for sure. But now I'm starting to become of belief that if Ethereum solves those problems, the way that they've set up ERC 721s, the way they've set up
Yep.
1155s, it's the gold standard
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
this stuff. And so it's become really appealing to me. So now I'm playing a lot of VR, and so I'm doing Tilt Brush. And so now I'm going to create the assets. I thought I'll just create all of our NFTs because they're simple. I'll create them in Tilt Brush, export them into these 3D objects, and bring them over to Ethereum and have them be like collectibles. And so that's kind of like one of my short-term goals too, because there's just way more money over there. There's more money for a dev. You can survive.
I think Ethereum is definitely shaping up to be kind of a master settlement layer. And when you want to talk about ownership, like that's liquidity matters, right? And I think the thing about performances is that like optimistic rollups, EK rollup, like plasma chains, like side chains, parachains, it's almost like whatever you want, you know what I mean? Like whatever your application needs, like there's going to be this scalability isn't really the issue, right? The issue becomes more like trust, and it becomes more like settlement. So I feel like you're right. Like the liquidity's there, and there's ETH super wells there. So it's definitely a cool thing. I think a lot of the folks that are kind of novel chain folks, like Splinterlands, that kind of did the Steemit thing with the Hive chain, they're coming across too. So like a lot of people are doing what you're doing, and they're bridging whatever chain, performance chain, bridging the assets into ETH just so that they can have that liquidity.
Yeah, and I just saw this problem recently where it kind of didn't make sense to me. Like I felt like there were two disparate worlds, but now I realize with my software layer that I've built that interacts with Telegram, people can own multi-chain assets in my game. And I just figured that out. I didn't really see it at first, but now I realize like if people want to buy weed castles on Ethereum, the way that my game works is that it syncs into a cache layer. So they could own these assets on 8 different blockchains if they really wanted to, and they can enjoy gameplay. And then the more heavy lifting stuff, or like distributions, like I can't send out 100, I can't send the yield out in NFTs on Ethereum because the game wouldn't scale. But see, that's the beauty If you want to buy like an expensive asset on Ethereum and you want that 721, you can, but the production of that asset could be done on another chain. And now I'm starting to see more clearly the relevance of some of these side chains. Like Wax is very valuable. I think some people underestimate what it can do. I could send out 1 million NFTs in one day if I wanted to, and it won't break the bank. You could never do it on Ethereum. I don't think you're going to be able to do that on Ethereum for the next 5 years at any kind of cost. And so you might wonder, if you have a game that includes a lot of digital assets, how are you going to do that on Ethereum? You cannot. So you have to do all these workarounds, right? But on Wax, you can. So for example, I could go buy crypto kitties, right? Throw it into Wax and have it wrapped. You could trade them all day long. You could play games with them and move them around like crazy. But you still, at the end of the day, have that gold standard of that Ethereum asset. And
Yep.
to me, that's pretty sexy. And so I'm feeling like if those two things can converge like that, that's exciting. But I'm kind of worried that if these chains don't realize that's their role and that's what they need to be prepared for, they're going to get left in the dust because someone else will just do it on ETH itself. Why do you need another chain? You know, like these are the kind of things I have to think about every day when I build this kind of shit. Actually, it's kind of confusing, you know.
Well, but it's a very exciting time. And I think that the thing that we kind of will enjoy is, the kind of the great shakeout, right? Because ultimately, like, technology stacks kind of sort themselves up beautifully. And, ultimately the applications kind of drive adoption. So, I feel like you're standing in a really advantaged spot because, you're building things that can't really be done over there yet. And, but so you're kind of in the future. You're living in the future.
Yeah, it's a blessing and curse actually, because like some of the things are a little ahead, but I think migrating to the core collectibles a little bit on Ethereum is going to be really great. And I think that will work well. And there's another core concept that I think is even more important. It's that if you are building a blockchain game, I think that building around the wallet is just terrible. And I'm completely convinced of this now. And so what this has done, there's been things that we've invented that are very novel concepts that don't exist in any games. Like one of those is stacking. Like typically in a game, owning one sword and equipping one sword is the standard.
Yeah.
But like in ours, you could stack 100 swords and it's a collector's version. And they gain in power. And why do we have that? Is because we don't want to go through all this trouble of equipment and moving things around and buying and selling. If you can avoid, if your goal is to avoid the wallet, which I think every game should do now, unless it's, some really niche thing. If you want to do that, now your gameplay has changed a little bit. And I think that that's also going to become a thing where it's like, typically you might be a player, like let's say you're playing Zelda. Well, you have 2 swords. Well, your inventory's full. You better ditch some swords. You throw them on the ground, right? Well, on the blockchain, it's not easy to throw a sword on the ground. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's not easy to go to the shop.
No, it's like a permanent record of history. So like you can't even really get rid of it if you want to. I mean, I suppose you could sell it, but
Yeah. And so if you really try to design it where you're like, let's not touch the wallet, because nobody wants to, and I want kids to play my game actually, like I really do. And this is the first thing that I feel like we've been able to build where it's like a kid could play, like we actually do. One of the biggest contributors to our game is 17 years old, and it's amazing what he's been able to do. He's writing code, he owns assets, he's building lore, and that is exciting to me because I've had a really hard time getting young people interested in crypto. It's really very hard to do.
It's fascinating, right? Because in a way, like, to me, like the biggest story arc of this asset class is that it ultimately is about kind of the disintermediation of rent-seeking intermediaries, right? So, I think at the end of the day, like, people should jump in, like it's obviously we still have a lot of work to do to make it easier to use and understand. But like, I think that over time, people will eventually realize that this is a good for them. And I think that, in a way, like the entire phenomenon is kind of reliant on this younger generation, and the good news is the younger generation doesn't like rent-seeking intermediaries. Like the younger generation it's not the highest trusting of institutions, you know, and it's not about them. It's about the institutions that failed, right? The institutions are not trustworthy, right? So I think the young people are onto it. The young people are like, what's up with them? And like, why do we give them our trust? Like, that's not a thing anymore.
Yeah, for sure. And the things that we're willing to deal with because we're older is just so much more. Like I think that these young people, they see the wallet and they're just like, no. Like
Yeah, why
it's
would I
just
do that? Why would I do that? Right? I totally get the reaction. The reaction is kind of like, that makes, like, you guys are jumping through a lot of hoops, but like, why would I do that?
Yeah, like why would you do that when, I don't even have a bank account and I'm
Yep.
moving my money around
Yep.
in Robinhood now.
Yep.
And it's just like, why? And these apps are slick, man. They raised the bar so
Yep.
much.
Yep.
And here we are, the older guys over here, playing around with these fucking ancient technologies. It reminds me of like, when you put the CD in the computer just to get the software, like Zendesk or something,
That's
and
awesome.
you had to like, you know what I mean? Like that's what these wallets
Yeah.
are, man. It's a fucking showstopper.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a deal breaker for sure. If you're talking about entertainment, like, it's like, oh, let me bust out my MetaMask. It's like, okay, entertainment over, right? Like, that's it. That's the end. No.
And the sad thing about that is like I'm actually starting to enjoy MetaMask a lot. Like I was like, MetaMask, and I feel like the ETH ecosystem was kind of in shambles. The other day I bought some Ethereum because I just wanted to play around with this DAOFi stuff that I think is really interesting. Like it's about monetizing these communities, and it's an exchange for monetizing communities. I think it's just fucking big. Like if you're not into it, I would look into it. And I bought Ethereum. It took me less than a minute. And this is me like kind of I'm not really like deep in Ethereum.
Yeah.
I was able to do it with my Wells Fargo card on my phone, connected on my Apple right from mobile.
Yep.
And that experience was like, wow. After being into crypto for 10 years, it's just,
you're like, this
wow.
okay. This is finally like it's reached okayness, which is yeah. That's nice. That's great. It's great to hear. Well, this has been really nice. It's been super fun catching up. It's always a pleasure, and it's really kind of deep and exciting and edgy what you're working on, and I really appreciate you sharing.
Yeah, keep me going in this pandemic, you know what I mean? So yeah, I appreciate you too, dude. Thanks for thinking of me.
Absolutely.